Thank you for your time today. To begin, could you give us a brief overview of your company, African Queen Mines?
Thanks, Amy. Happy to be here. I'm excited about the prospects for African Queen and appreciate the opportunity to share our excitement with some of your listeners. Essentially, African Queen Mines was born in 2009. African Queen had a parent company called Pan-African Mining Corp., which was the largest exploratory company in Madagascar. That company was developed and successfully sold to an Asian group in Thailand in 2008 at a big uplift. Each Pan-African share was sold for $4.50 a share versus our original financing of 25 cents. At the same time, there were several assets in Africa that were not purchased by the purchasers. Those were put in a separate company called African Queen Mines, which was then spun out as a dividend to the shareholders of Pan-African. So in connection with that acquisition, each shareholder received $4.50 in cash plus one share of African Queen. African Queen at that time was focused on developing properties in Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Botswana, Namibia, Mozambique. And our stock started to rise from 10 cents all the way to 75 cents. Then the recession hit the mining industry in late 2010, 2011, and the financing window closed. It was impossible for us and for most small juniors at the time to obtain good financing to develop our projects. So we started to cut back in Africa, abandoned several projects that were marginal. We sold another project successfully for $1 million. We used that capital to keep the company moving forward, keep it debt-free over this 5-year period to where now, in a better environment with gold prices starting to rise again, we're in a position to move forward with our exploration program. We've just now acquired, as of last September, an exciting property in British Columbia in the Atlan district. It is both a placer property, but more importantly, it has a hard rock mining opportunity. It's the largest property in the district, and we are set to start a drilling program this summer on that project.
Okay, so you mentioned the recent announcement for the land expansion near Atlan in BC. So what is the incentive behind this move, and how do you expect or hope it to benefit AQ in the future?
We had purchased the Yellow Jacket Gold project last September from the prior owners who were unable to do any development on the project for 4 or 5 years due to the financing situation. They found themselves in a position where they had some uranium prospects. They wanted to stay a uranium company, so they divested the Yellow Jacket project. We were fortunate enough to buy it right at the very bottom of the market, just before gold started to rise again, and as a result we got it on very favorable terms. And that project incorporated about 78 square kilometers. We did 2 additional property acquisitions, very strategic, in the last 6 or 9 months, which have added dramatically to our land holdings. We now have about 228 square kilometers in the heart of the Atlan mining district, which is one of Canada's most prolific historic mining districts for placer mining. We basically are looking at a hard rock mine opportunity. The placer mining, which has been going on this property and in the Atlan region for over 100 years, essentially is sourced somewhere. We think that we have an excellent opportunity to find the big hard rock source of all this placer gold, and that's the thrust of our exploration efforts. So this increased land package that we've obtained gives us a lot more blue sky opportunity, and it incorporates both the Pine Creek area, which has traditionally been number one, and more recently the Spruce Creek area. So we now essentially have the predominant position on both of those very prolific mining zones, and are looking forward to our exploration this summer.
Okay, so in other news, AQ also recently announced private placement expected to generate $450,000. When do you expect this arrangement to close?
That private placement is now all the funds are in. We're just waiting for final approval from the TSX Venture Exchange, which we expect within a day or two. You may have noticed that our stock price has soared in the last 2 weeks, and I think this is a function of the market recognizing that we've now successfully financed. We're in a position to move forward. We've got a drill program ready to commence. We've increased our land position, and we are adding some outstanding internationally acclaimed geologists to our team now, so that our technical team will be second to none in North America.
Okay, and assuming all goes to plan, how will this inflow of capital ideally help AQ in the future, and how will AQ allocate these resources?
The cash from the financing that is just now closing will be used to undertake a 2,000 meter drill program, which should be starting in the next few weeks. In addition, it'll be used to secure our licenses renewals for the next year, and to carry out other exploration on the project, as well as our general public company costs. In reference to those costs, we have made an extreme effort to minimize all of our overheads, all of our G&A expenses over the past several years, to be responsive to the difficulty in raising funding in the industry. So one of the reasons we were successful in surviving in this difficult period of the past 5 years is that we did make aggressive cuts in salaries, overheads, office expenses, and we intend to maintain a low burn rate from that perspective. We understand that there is a good financing window now in the industry. We don't know how long it's going to last. We think we've started a new bull market in gold and resource stocks, but at the same time we're being conservative with how we manage our money. So ideally we would like to do 5,000 meters of drilling this summer and fall, and in order to do that we would need to do another raise somewhere in the early fall. We'll see how that works out. Our stock price is up about 400% almost in the last few weeks. The phone is ringing off the hook. A lot of people are very interested. And I think people say, well, why is it going up so fast? And I do think it's a combination of the relief that we've finally gotten financing. We're able to move ahead. We've survived this 5-year downturn in the industry, together with the excitement for this new project, the Yellow Jacket Gold project in Atlan, and all the new ground we've obtained. And in addition, there's a lot of interest right now in an area called the Golden Triangle in northern British Columbia, and we're at the northern tip of that area, just above it. So I think people are starting to look at us as part of that peer group and give us a much higher valuation accordingly.
Okay, great. In your opinion, why is Africa, with its known share of potential political and other risks, a prime location for mining exploration, development, and eventual production?
Right now, African Queen is still maintaining a presence in Africa through our relationships with some of our outstanding geos who are African-based. They're, continually introducing projects to us that come across their desks, things that they think might be of interest. At the moment, however, African Queen has no projects in development in Africa. We are very mindful of the political and social instability going on at this time, which has been increasing in recent years. At the same time, we do recognize that Africa has a tremendous amount of resource wealth available. There is a lot of opportunity in the resource sector going forward. So we're not saying no, we're just saying not now for our company. A couple people have said, well, maybe you should change the name then if you're not in Africa right now. And I say, well, African Queen really isn't named after Africa. It's named after the famous movie starring Humphrey Bogart. The African Queen was the name of this boat that was traveling down the Zambezi River. So it's really a Hollywood name. And we have fun with it. So I think for the near term, we're looking to hit a home run in Atlan in British Columbia. But we're not ruling out the possibility of an exciting project in Africa again at some point in the future, if we feel that it's in an area with relatively low political and social risk.
So what would you say are some of AQ's competitive advantages in comparison to other industry competitors in Africa? Sorry, not in Africa, in Canada.
I think that African Queen and its predecessor company, Pan-African, which African Queen now basically shares the same management team that that was so successful with Pan-African. We also share essentially the same technical team. Virtually all of the top geologists who were associated with Pan-African and the directors and so forth still maintain relationships with African Queen. And in fact, we are in the process of just bringing back, and that will be our new head of production, head of exploration rather, who is an internationally acclaimed geologist that was involved with Pan-African as well. So I think our strongest asset is our strong management team, which has already shown the ability to identify grassroots opportunities, to develop them successfully, to package them, and to sell them, as well as our technical team, which includes a number of PhDs, a number of people with 30 and 40 years experience in the field, people who've made major discoveries around the world. And I don't believe that any other relatively small junior has a technical team any stronger than ours, or a management team any stronger than ours. So I think those are our two biggest assets. We have good access now to the capital markets. We know how to run a company, and I think that we had a Midas touch in Madagascar, and I'm expecting that that is going to show up again here in British Columbia.
Okay, so are there any other key milestones or goals we can look forward to by the end of this fiscal year and beginning of next year?
We're looking to have a successful exploration program this year. We've already started with a drone survey. There's been some ground geophysics done over some of our target area, and we're going to be expanding that program with geochemical sampling, with trenching, and most importantly with some diamond drilling. The Yellow Jacket project has had a small amount of drilling in the past, nothing in the last 4 or 5 years, but prior to that there were some quite spectacular drill results from a small area that was examined, up to 500 grams per ton over significant intervals. And realistically, most of this property, which of 228 square kilometers, is virtually unexplored and grossly underexplored. The drilling was confined to a very small section of the original property. So there's a tremendous opportunity here for us to go and create a new geologic model to potentially make a district scale discovery of a new hard rock gold project. And I'm very excited about that. I think we have a good chance to succeed. We know what we're doing. We have geologists who've done it before. So I say onward and upward.
Okay, so finally, are there any further points you'd like to bring up or emphasize for potential investors out there that we have yet to touch upon?
I think it's important to understand that during bull markets, the prices of a lot of these earlier stage gold companies tend to go up to levels maybe that are a little bit excessive, a little bit frothy. At the same time, during the downturns, such as the horrible collapse we had in the resource market of the past 5 years, essentially stocks go to become very, very undervalued. They go to prices that really begin to have nothing to do with the real prospects of the company, their management teams, the opportunities, and the assets. And I think in this case, African Queen stock is just now starting to return to levels that are more appropriate, but still very undervalued based on our opportunity. So we're excited for the future. We think that there's a lot of upside in AQ and in AQ shares, and we're all working hard to build shareholder value and make a major discovery.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you. Appreciate it.